Welcome to Filmmaking for Noobs. I'm Kyle Lawrence and this is How to Slate. Visual 36 Apple, take 2. Hey, Mark? In this tutorial, I will show you how to properly slate as I have seen and learned from working on television shows and studio productions, but first, an introduction. Visual X-ray Apple 27 Baker, take 1. Hey, Mark. The slate serves two purposes. One, to identify the clip for a streamlined post-production process, and two, to synchronize the audio with the video. Because normally, the audio is being recorded to a separate audio recorder, not to the camera. Now, whether you're using a cheap $30 slate or a fancy timecode slate, the advantage to a timecode slate is it allows you to jam sync the timecode on the slate to match the timecode on the audio recorder, which makes for a much simpler post-production process. However, if you're simply recording your audio to your camera, then a timecode slate is completely unnecessary. First tip is this: if you have a limited budget, renting or purchasing a timecode slate is not going to improve your acting, your directing, your story, or your cinematography. So I'd recommend spending your money elsewhere. Although if you do have a few extra dollars to spend, getting a custom printed slate for about $100 is pretty cool. So a few definitions. Head slate means that you slate at the beginning of a clip. Tail slate means that you slate at the end of a clip. From the moment you start rolling until the camera cuts, that is a clip. Head ID means that you ID or identify the take at the beginning of the clip without slapping the sticks. Tail ID means that you identify the take at the end of the clip without actually clapping the sticks. Second AC, or your second assistant camera or second camera assistant, sometimes known as the clapper loader, is the one who's responsible for the slate and camera reports. First AC, or your first assistant camera, first camera assistant, or focus puller, is the one who's responsible for pulling focus, rolling the camera, and cutting the camera. Scripty, or the script supervisor, is the one who's responsible for telling the second AC what to label this shot as on the slate. The first column on your slate is roll. This refers to the camera roll that you are filming this footage on, where you can find the footage. It's called roll because this used to be referring to physical rolls of film. Today, obviously, we're using cards and mags and drives and whatever, but we still call it roll, so don't mess it up. In practice, your roll name is 4 characters. The first character is a letter signifying the designation for the camera, such as A camera, B camera, C camera, and so on. The next 3 characters start at 001 and count upwards for the number of rolls that you've used so far on this production. Normally for a TV series, the entire season, they'll keep on counting upwards for the entire season. On a feature film, you'll start at 1 and keep counting upwards until your last day. So the first mag or roll or drive that you use on your A camera is called A001. Keep in mind that red means A camera, A feed. Even your #1 actor uses red marks on the floor. Blue means B camera, B feed. Even your #2 actor uses blue marks on the floor. Typically, you can label a slate with a piece of red tape for A camera for the roll, or a piece of blue tape for B camera for the roll. The second column on your slate is the scene number. Yes, all of your shots in scene 32 belong to scene 32, but they are not all labeled 32. Your first shot or your master shot of every scene should be labeled with the scene number. For example, the first shot or master shot of scene 32 would be labeled on the slate as scene 32. However, once your angle changes or your lens changes, it becomes a new shot. This is now A, 32A. You then count upwards with letters, 32A, 32B, 32C. For example, the 4th setup or 4th shot would be labeled as 32C. Avoid using I and O because they look like 1 and 0. Whenever the shot has visual effects, a V should be used on the slate on the left side of the scene number. Letters are pronounced using the phonetic alphabet or any other word that starts with that letter. Traditionally, A and B are pronounced apple and baker. Everything else uses the phonetic alphabet or any other word. Whenever a V is used on the left side of the scene number to represent visual effects, it should always be pronounced as visual. Whenever a V is used on the right side of the slate, it should not be pronounced as visual. Any other word that starts with a V works, or just Victor. It is also common to precede the scene number with an X or an XX whenever the shot is being filmed by a different unit, a splinter unit, or later after principal photography has wrapped. That said, it is totally possible to have a shot in scene 92 labeled as Visual X-ray 92 Baker. Okay, now we've got the complicated part out of the way. The third column is your take. You start at 1 and you count upwards. Every time the slate is placed in front of the camera, that qualifies as a take, even if you cut the camera before calling action after the slate has clapped. The slate should be properly framed so that the entire slate, including the sticks, can be seen. The focus should be sharp on the slate. When the assistant director calls roll sound, that is the sound department's cue and only the sound department's cue to roll their sound recording device. Once sound is rolling, they call out sound speed. When the second assistant camera hears sound speed, that is the second assistant camera's cue to place the slate in front of the lens. Once the slate is properly placed in front of the lens, that becomes the first assistant's cue to roll the camera. Once the camera is rolling, the first AC tells the second AC to slap it. When the second AC hears that, you state the slate information, the scene and take only, followed by A mark, mark, B mark, and then you clap it. If you're recording sound, the slate should always start open. The slate should never be seen on a roll closed until after you've clapped it. If you're not recording sound, this is called MOS, or motor only sync. The slate should not start open, it should start closed, and if it's a timecode slate, the timecode should not be running. On all slates, whatever you're using, it's very helpful to write MOS somewhere on the slate. A separate slate should be used for each camera. If you're rolling multiple cameras and using the same slate, then you should label the slate as common sticks. Once the first AC has confirmed that the camera is rolling, this is your cue to call out the slate information. Visual 36 Apple, take 2, A mark. This way, the slate information is also recorded into the audio file in an audible format. Say the scene and the take only. After saying the slate information and before clapping the sticks, you should say the camera designation followed by the word mark. If A camera is the only camera rolling, you do not need to say A, you can just say mark. You should say the camera designation such as A mark, slap it. Then on B camera, say B mark, slap it. If you have multiple cameras but only one is rolling and it is not your A camera, for example your B camera, then you should say B only mark. This way the post-production team doesn't think they're missing a shot from A camera. The reason for calling mark immediately before slapping the sticks is because sometimes there's different sounds that happen on set that sound like a slate clap. When you're syncing up the audio, especially if you weren't on set, you may mistake these and sync it to the wrong clap. Therefore, calling mark right before clapping the sticks ensures that you're going to sync to the right mark. Cameras should mark in alphabetical order, from A to Z. Only the first camera being slated needs to state the information audibly. Everyone else can just say B mark, C mark. The first frame of every clip should always be the slate in focus and properly formatted. It makes it much easier when processing hundreds of clips. The exception to this is in the event of a tail slate. If for some reason it is not practical to do a slate at the beginning of the clip, you can call out tail slate as soon as the camera starts rolling. As soon as you hear the director say cut, the second AC should yell out tail slate again so that the first AC does not accidentally stop rolling. For a tail slate, the slate should be held upside down. The same rule applies. If you're recording sound, it should start open. If you're not recording sound, it should start closed. Once you say the slate information, clap it, flip it, and then the camera can cut. The other exception to this is when you are filming a series of MOS insert shots and it makes more sense to not slate each one individually. It is acceptable to do a head ID or a tail ID either as the first clip before rolling on your different inserts or as your last clip after rolling a series of the same shot. Obviously, if you're shooting a short film for film class and you have a budget of $50, you probably don't have an entire camera department or script supervisor. But now you know how it's done, so you can divvy up the tasks amongst your crew and streamline your post-production process. So this is your comprehensive guide on how to slate. And I bet you didn't realize it was that complicated. Thank you for watching Filmmaking for Noobs. If you liked what you saw, then please let me know by clicking that little like button. If you'd like to see more, then please subscribe to my channel by clicking my face right there. You can check out other videos here and here, or if there's anything else that you'd like me to cover in a future episode, then please leave a comment below. Until next time, keep it rolling.